live in Baytown Township, and I will be your moderator. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization which encourages citizens to participate in government. Our mission is to support voter education and voters' rights. Though the League studies and takes positions on issues, we do not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Our goal is to encourage citizens to learn more about the positions of the candidates who will be on your ballot on November 5th. All candidates who filed to run for these positions were invited to participate, and today we have the following candidates. For seat 1, Nicole Dahl and Jon Wood. For seat 2, George Dierberger and Christopher Randazzo. And seat 5, Paul Johnson. There is another candidate in seat 5, John Hall. He did not respond to any of our contacts. To begin, each candidate will introduce themselves by name and will make an opening statement of up to 1 minute. Our timekeeper will show warning signs, and at the time, I ask you just to finish your sentence. For the opening statement, candidates will respond in alphabetical order by seat. Thereafter, the rotating will be rotated. They have 1 minute to answer each question. And candidates, you don't have to use the full time. You can say what you have to say and then be done, and that'll allow for more questions. Each candidate will have up to 3 opportunities to clarify information or to rebut another candidate's response. Each rebuttal is limited to 30 seconds, and a candidate may use only 1 rebuttal for each question. And when the questions are finished, they'll each have 1 minute for closing statements. Questions were received in advance from the public and reviewed by a committee of League members. We will not use questions that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature. We may consolidate questions that fall into the same general topic area. All questions submitted are the property of the League of Women Voters. We'll now begin with opening statements, and we'll start with Nicole Dahl.
Thank you, Liz. Good morning. My name is Nicole Dahl. I'm running for seat 1. I grew up in Baytown. My family moved here when I was 2 years old, so I've had the pleasure of enjoying our community for many, many years. I did move away for a short period of time for college, getting married, starting a family, but in 2009 was able to move back to Baytown to allow my family to grow up in this wonderful community. I work at 3M Company. I've worked there for over 27 years in a variety of roles, mainly operational leadership roles, and just very excited and would be honored to be able to represent Baytown on the board. I also want to take some time to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I think it's a fantastic way to disseminate information into the community. And just for the short period getting to know the ladies that are here, I really appreciate your time and effort. There's been a lot of communications to us. I can imagine it takes a ton of time on your part. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Now with his opening statement, Jon Wood.
Thank you. My name is Jon Wood. I live in Baytown. To start off, you know, my daughter is here with us, and we'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for giving her this opportunity to be a part of this. And my daughter and I, we play a game in the car called I Spy with My Little Eye, and recently we've changed it to Who Bought the Fancy Signs? And so this last week, you know, as we're driving up Northbrook and we see the fancy signs in Baytown, we say, who bought the fancy signs? And the answer is on one hand, we've got the farmers that buy the fancy signs so they can sell their property and annex the property to in this case, Oak Park Heights, and they can, instead of selling 30 properties, they can sell 100 properties. And so that's one of our biggest concerns, is we don't want the Baytown to be taken over by these builders.
Thank you. Now with his opening statement is George Dierberger. This is for seat 2.
Thank you. My name is George Dierberger. I've lived in Baytown for 31 years. I worked 25 years at 3M. For the last 18 years, I've been in higher education. I am currently the chair of the Business and Economics School at Augsburg University and also a Fulbright Scholar. One of the classes that I teach is strategy, and I've completed over 150 projects for a variety of nonprofits, large corporations and also medium and small businesses. One of the things that I enjoy is working with entrepreneurs as well. And the reason that I'm running is to keep our taxes low. We have one of the lowest tax rates in the Twin City area. We're the best value, I believe, in the Twin City area as well. And we want to continue that philosophy with our current board, which has done a very nice job of keeping our taxes down. Thank you.
Thank you. Now with his opening statement for seat 2, Christopher Randazzo.
Good morning. My name's Christopher Randazzo. I was raised in Baytown. I moved away for a couple of years out of state for college, and when I returned, I got married. I'm now raising 2 kids in Baytown. We love it. We love the small, rural lifestyle that everyone in Baytown kind of lives. And like George says, low taxes are always great. I'm running because we want to keep taxes low, and we want to try and stay a township. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now with his opening statement for seat 5, Paul Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Paul Johnson, and I would like to thank the league for having this forum. You guys spent a lot of time and effort doing that. It opens up a lot of communication to the general public. And I've lived in Baytown my entire life. I grew up on the northern end near Highway 36 that was annexed for a greater purpose of the high school and development like Walmart and such. So I've seen annexation, experienced it. I then built a home in 2004 on Northbrook Boulevard, where I live and raised a family. I've been a union member for 35 years as a stonemason and a foreman for 29 of those years. I know how to manage people and come in under budget on time. I think fiscal responsibility is very important and want to maintain low taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to questions, and we'll start. The first question will go to you, Paul Johnson. There is a resolution on this year's ballot asking voters whether the Baytown Township Board of Supervisors should pass a resolution to incorporate Baytown as a city. What is your position on this, and please explain it?
I would like to make sure that
Sorry. Here, take this.
I didn't think your mic was live, Paul. Okay.
Thank you.
It was really quiet. We still heard you. It was just through these mics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the question is, I don't think it's been explained to the residents of the township well enough what the implications are to becoming a city. I personally have not seen any numbers about what the cost to initiate the city progress and what it's going to take to maintain that.
Thank you. The question now goes to George Dierberger.
First of all, let's thank everybody for being here, because running for office is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of time and energy, so thanks for all of you for running for office. I believe that, and strategically I believe that it's in our best interest to become a city. I think it's the only way to protect ourselves from the big dollars that the builders are throwing at people. Right now, we're going to lose about 46 acres down towards Bayport off of 14 to a builder. They're going to build a grade school there. They're also going to sell about 26 acres from one homeowner, 10 on the other. So it's around 46 total acres. And the Pulte builder was at our meeting, one of our board meetings, and he's going to put in around 34, really? 34? Okay, 34 homes to 44 homes in that area. So I think that's a problem for us.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nicole Dahl.
Sure, thank you. So first of all, to answer the question directly, I am pro-township, so I will vote no on the resolution. And the reason why is, number one, I think it's important to have factual understanding of what the risk is for annexation, and is there truly a threat to Baytown that justifies becoming a city? The answer is no. It's very important to understand our boundaries. When you look at other townships that have changed to a city, such as Grant, there are large tracts of undeveloped land along the borders, which we do not have. The second point is understanding the tax implication. So if you look at our borders and you look at where we have properties that are potentially at risk, the probability is low from an annexation standpoint. The property that George is referring to is a property owner-driven request, which we cannot stop. So for that fact, the probability is low, but the likelihood our taxes will increase is high. And for that reason, we will vote no.
Thank you. The question now goes to Jon Wood.
Yeah, we owe, as Baytown residents that want to retain low taxes in our town, we owe George Dierberger a great, great thanks for all of his work he did on a project to analyze between going from township to a city. And it's all about protecting Baytown and protecting the tax base here and keeping it low. And this annexation issue is an enormous issue. And as these properties that are on the border, they have the option to sell and eventually annex to the city next door. So for instance, you have a tree farm up on Northbrook that can easily sell to Pulte Homes. They can get, instead of 20 properties, they can get 100 properties in there, and that's why you see the fancy signs on those on the properties that are closest to the borders. So it's very easy to tell, and I'm very thankful for George and the work that he's done.
Thank you. The question now goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, I want to be very clear. I am pro-township. One of the things a lot of you'll be hearing is that city protects us, and it doesn't from the properties that are property owner driven. Any property owner that's on the border, whether we're a city or a township, can leave because they're a property owner and they can choose to leave. The properties in question and being brought up all are on the border. Whether we're a city or a township, we can't stop them. With that being said, basically, the owners can leave whenever they want, and for the most part, Baytown has done a great job. Our board has done a great job of cutting up our borders so that they can't be annexed. We have a lot of neighborhoods, dense communities around the borders to kind of block annexation.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question, and it'll go first to Christopher Randazzo.
Can I rebut or not?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I just want to point something out. If you go onto the Baytown website, there's a statement written by our attorney, Kevin, and it lists the 3 statutes in which someone can annex a city can annex a township. So statute 414033 talks exactly about what Christopher is saying, where there may be someone who wants to go and become part of the city for whatever reason. 41406 also says that a city can annex a township. The one that we're talking about here is 414061, where a city tries to annex another city. Now it becomes a discussion, and it's not an automatic thing. It's not something that can just happen. So by becoming a city, we take 2 of the 3 options off the table, and the only one that really puts us in a position is 414061. That equals the power.
Thank you. Anyone else with a rebuttal?
Yeah, Liz, I'd like to read about that. So I think, number one, the property that's being referenced, the tree farm, is actually a property that I live on. And this land has already been plotted for 2.5 acres, which is consistent with our Baytown ordinance. So there is no intent to do a high-density development on this land. We love this land. We've lived there for many, many years. The second point I would make is when we look at these properties, these are on our edges. There's only a handful that we're discussing. They do not put the entire Baytown Township at risk. So it's very important to understand we're talking about low probability for high taxes.
Thank you. Anyone else? And we'll move to the next question. It does go to Christopher Randazzo next. Follow-up question to the first one. The results of the ballot vote are not binding on the town board. If elected, will you follow the options supported by the majority of the voters? Why or why not?
Yeah, based on the community's vote, I would follow the options because I believe our community should decide in big decisions like this. I do believe most of our township wants to stay a township. I have no doubt about that. You know, we've went door to door on some neighborhoods, and they've all wanted to stay a township, and and a lot of people want to see factual information why George and the board brings up becoming a city. And right now, we haven't had that much factual information.
Thank you. The question now goes to Paul Johnson.
I agree, excuse me, that we have not seen enough information about the implications of becoming a city. We do not know how much it's going to cost, and we don't know what every citizen resident is going to see an increase in their taxes. We've seen due to county and levies increases. It's concerning to a lot of residents, and we want to make sure we're ready for any kind of big step that this may take, what it's going to cost.
Thank you. The question now goes to Jon Wood.
We're in a no-win situation here. We have on the one hand, if we stay a township, we're just going to bleed properties to the adjacent cities. On the other hand, you know, if we transfer to a city, sure, there might be some small cost, but it comes down to the control of the board or whatever the city council would be at that point. But our you know, we all want low taxes. In order to maintain our tax base, we have to retain our property. And we don't want to become necessarily a city, but it's our last option. If we don't become a city, we're going to lose our property, we're going to lose our tax base, and our taxes are going to go through the roof. If we get annexed by one of the adjacent cities, Oak Park Heights, Bayport, or Lake Elmo, our taxes are going to go up 30-35% overnight, and that's what we're trying to prevent. We don't necessarily want to become a township. It's our last option to become a city at this point, and we're very thankful for George for doing the analysis.
Thank you. Question goes to Nicole Dahl.
Thank you. I would ask that our community members lead with data and fact. Do not be scared or threatened by emotional statements such as Baytown will be annexed. That's not possible. We're talking about specific properties. We have a handful of properties that have been discussed. So last year where this started was the Jan Anderson property. It's been a property owner requested annexation to Bayport, truly for development, which is that property owner's right. That is on the edge of Baytown. It is surrounded by Bayport, and that is her right. That started back in the early 2000s, and that was actually approved by the board for orderly annexation. And that's actually a property that's being discussed. I believe George has been in those conversations, and the board is approving that to move forward. So it's important to understand the specific sites that we're discussing and make sure that we understand the facts. We're not bleeding property. Our tax base is solid, even with losing potentially that Jan Anderson property.
Thank you. Question now goes to George Dierberger.
So this all started in May of last year. So we've been doing this analysis for about a year and a half now. An MBA group of students that, as part of a project, did an analysis, wrote a 46 or 52-page paper. They looked at 4 different cities: Credit River, Rice Lake, Empire, and Now Then. And they looked at the data of them becoming and moving from a township to a city. So there is hard data there. Secondly, when you look at increased taxes, the only way you increase taxes in Baytown is if you hire full-time employees. That's going to be your biggest thing. Half of our budget goes to roads. So if you decide that you want your own police officer, if you decide that you want to have a full-time city manager, then that's when your taxes would go up. I don't believe we need a full-time city manager. We need a better website that can process credit cards and so that you don't have to do applications in person with Nancy. So I don't believe you need that, and I don't believe that you need a full-time officer. We already pay for that with our taxes currently to Washington County.
Thank you. Rebuttals? Yes, Christopher.
Yeah, this is on record from the board too. They do talk about our prices going up. First being the filing setup of becoming a city would be expensive. Second, who maintains our, not hiring, like George says, not hiring a police officer, not hiring city staff once, George or whoever the board moves on. And second, right now, townships, we're not responsible for any of the Bryan Rock or Miller on our property, on our township. The Washington County takes care of all that. So that would add a huge expense and liability for us.
Thank you. Anyone else with a rebuttal? Yes, John.
I'd like to rebut on that. The costs. We can look at the costs of adding police officers. We can look at the costs of adding different town managers. The cost of defending a lawsuit against Bayport will double, if not triple, our city budget, our town budget. If we have to try to protect our land against Bayport, against Oak Park Heights, against Lake Elmo, we're going to be in litigation and our taxes are going to go up. That could just, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Paul Johnson.
Has there been any communication from any bordering towns regarding, or cities regarding annexation?
Well, can I answer
Yes.
that? It's clear, Bayport has already annexed the property that we're talking about on the south end.
Yeah, but that was property owner driven.
Property owner driven. There's, as George mentioned, there's multiple ways that a city can annex properties, and that's one of the avenues. So in the case where a city could actually annex the entire city, that's where we're in a lawsuit. So if Oak Park Heights doesn't have the funds to continue and they need to go after Baytown, we're in litigation.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to move to the next question, which goes to George Dierberger first. If elected, what would be your top 2 priorities for the township, and how would you move those priorities forward?
Really 3. 1 is move to a city. 2 is keeping our taxes low, and 3 is taking care of the roads. 50% of our budget goes to roads and maintenance, and that's really the function we need to continue to perform well. We've got great council members right now. We've got people that go out, John Hall and Rick and Aaron go out with asphalt and repair roads, so we don't have to pay somebody to do that. They go out and buy it at Menards and go and repair roads. So they throw around nickels like manhole covers. They're very frugal with the taxpayer dollar. That's not going to change as we move forward. We have Spring Hill coming on, which is a development by Derek down in the western part, or eastern part, and down towards Bayport. And those taxes will start coming in, fully burdened taxes will start coming in this year and next year for the first 2 stages of the development. So that'll help keep our taxes down as well.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nicole Dahl.
Thank you. So, of course, wrapping up the city versus township discussion that will be voted on in November. So which way the community votes, that would need to be moved forward with what the decision is. Second will be fiscal responsibility. I think much like you've heard from the other candidates, making sure that we're spending the taxpayer dollars wisely is critical. Roads is our largest expense. So not only making sure that we have a clear plan of the roads that we manage within Baytown, but also ensuring we're doing it in the most financially responsible ways. There's been a lot of discussion about bonds. Making sure that we're taking the lowest cost option to fund that expense is critical. Second would be communication with the township. So one thing that we've heard consistently is improved communication with the township, whether it's on the hot topics like city versus township, also other topics such as the financial situation. When you look at our website, you can't find our financial information, so we want to make sure that's clear to the community. And then third, other topics such as water quality and preserving our township.
Thank you. Question now goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, mine are 3 simple: stay a township, low taxes, and keep our roads. I think, everyone loves the township, feeling the small rural, community. Our low taxes, like everyone, obviously, as progression happens throughout, life, our taxes will probably go up slowly, but let's try and maintain low taxes compared to our other communities around us. And roads, Baytown has very good roads now, and I think maintaining those is very important. And like Nicole said, financial, transparency. I think that should be very clear, so anyone in the township can kind of go look, see where all the money's going, see, every little detail. So.
Thank you. Question now goes to Paul Johnson.
Resolve the city versus township debate. Get more information out there. Let the citizens know and process. Learn what we're up against here. If there is such a threat, or if there isn't, know what we're doing with more information. I think transparency, improve the website, let the citizens know where their money is going and what it's doing. whether it's roads or any other topic.
Thank you. Question now goes to Jon Wood.
We moved to Baytown for two reasons. It was the rural character of Baytown and the low taxes. That's why we moved to Baytown. I mean, it's a beautiful area, and you can walk down the roads and see beautiful farm fields, beautiful wildlife, and I want to retain that character, and I want to retain the low taxes. Those are the two key things that I think go home or hit home with the residents. And it comes down to, it's the risk. It's the risk of becoming, of staying a township when you have these cities around us that are looking for opportunities for revenue. And this is the only way we can protect our rural character. It's the only way we can protect our low taxes.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Jon Wood first. What skills and experience do you have that make you uniquely qualified to be a town supervisor in Baytown Township?
My background is I went to St. John's University. I went to grad school for a master's at the University of Minnesota. I've worked for the big companies. I've worked for 3M. I've worked for the other, some other very large Fortune 500 corporations. I've been an entrepreneur. In terms of being a Baytown council member, it's about being a resident that wants these key aspects of Baytown to stay the same. The low taxes, the rural character. I'm a resident, and therefore I'm qualified to be on this council and try to defend my fellow neighbors' properties and property taxes.
Thank you. Question now goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, so I'm a small business owner. I believe that I can bring efficiency and transparency to the board, as well as youth. Our board has always been kind of on the older side, and I think the youth would, getting the younger generation involved would help our community greatly. So,
thank you. Question goes to Paul Johnson.
I believe I'm qualified to run for office and take the position because I lived here. I know the people. I feel what the Baytown should be like, and maintaining this lifestyle in construction. As a foreman, I am accountable to budgets and working with people, getting the job done. And to do that, we need to do that on the council, listen to people, and implement what's required.
Thank you. Question goes to George Dierberger.
Thank you. One, I'm on the council already, so I've been doing that for about a year and a half. Two, I was on the school board, and I was the school board chair for 2 years, which was a $100 million business at that time, very complicated with labor union negotiations with teachers, which I led twice on that. So I've got a lot of experience along those lines. I think just enjoying strategy, enjoying playing chess, not checkers, thinking 2 to 3 moves ahead is something that I enjoy quite a bit, which is why I think it's important for us to move to a city. I think it's the only way to protect our way of life, and the dollars have gotten so big. The builders are so powerful. We're going to lose, the builder's going to build 80 acres that'll be on the agenda for Monday night across from the township, and so you're going to see probably anywhere from 24 to 28 homes on that property as well. So the builders are just, the dollars are getting too big. City continues to expand, so I think that's a problem.
Thank you. The question goes to Nicole Dahl.
Kind of rebuttal.
No, not until after Nicole Dahl has answered the question. Nicole?
Thank you, Liz. I would say 3 things. Number one, experience. So I have a finance degree from the University of Minnesota Carlson School of Management. I've worked at 3M for 27 years. I feel like that ages me, but I'll throw it out there anyway. In dealing with large, complex topics. So dealing with multi-million-dollar budgets, dealing with strategy, operational issues, everything from suppliers to customers to our employees. So I will absolutely bring that experience. The second thing I would say is the passion to learn. So I absolutely humbly acknowledge that I need to learn. There will be experiences to come from this opportunity, and I absolutely commit to the township that I will do everything I can to make that to the best interest of the township. And third, a deep love for Baytown. I've been here for many decades. My family has been here. We have wonderful friends and neighbors in the community, and I bring that deep love to the board.
Thank you. Now it's time for rebuttals. John?
I just want to add, we've been talking about voter education on this specific issue of the township versus the city, and it's critical that the voters understand the issues. Right now we can say, save Baytown, but what does that mean? What does it mean if you don't understand the issues that are underlying Baytown right now? And you look at George, and he's been putting ample effort into understanding this issue. There's a 50-page document that grad school students put together to dig deep into this, and it's critical that the voters understand this issue deeply, and that's why George is a great candidate for this.
Thank you. Your time is up. Anyone else? Yes, Christopher.
I want to go off kind of what John said. George has probably put a lot of effort into the city versus township, but I think the issue that our whole township is having, and even us as well, is the lack of transparency on factual information. He's held 2 meetings, and he's had no answers, but a city is the best choice. Well, why is a city a best choice? What are the facts? What are, the properties that we're all concerned about are property owner driven, so we can't, stop those. And then when he talks about builders coming in, they're allowing these builders, you can't stop, whether you're a city or a township, you can't stop builders from building on people's farms.
Thank you. Your time is up. Anyone else? We're going to move to the next.
Oh, sorry, Liz.
I'm sorry.
Can I make a comment? So I would say that on top of what John has commented, we do need information. So Baytown Neighbors has actively been trying to participate with the board to bring information to the forefront since January. We've requested, and George and I have had some conversations about how do we partner to bring information. Because the board hasn't brought that forward, Baytown Neighbors has stepped in with a 40-some page document trying to bring factual information that we've had legally reviewed to make sure it is factually accurate to bring to the community, including 3 open forums to spread information to our members.
Okay, I gotta jump back in.
All right, George.
On the website right now is the NBA document, which has been there since August of last year. On there right now are all the documents that Nicole produced. We have a frequently asked questions document on the website that's been reviewed by our attorney, and also a statement from the attorney rebutting all of the allegations of not being open and honest. I've met personally with Nicole and her brother Luke, and with a number of residents whenever they want to meet. So I think we've been very transparent, but no one can predict the future.
Thank you. Anyone else? We're going to move to the next question. It goes to you first, Nicole. We, which is the League of Women Voters, have received several questions about the possibility of annexation of Baytown Township. Do you have any concerns about the potential for Oak Park Heights or another community to try to annex all or part of Baytown? For instance, the Xcel Energy's Allen S. King plant contributes 33% of the property tax revenue for the city of Oak Park Heights, and the plant is slated to close in a few years. When that happens, do you believe Oak Park Heights will have an added incentive to annex Baytown or portions of it to replace its lost tax revenue?
Great question. We need to actively manage our borders. So when we talk about annexation, annexation happens with border property. So it is important, and part of the pieces of information we've used with the community is to look at the map of Baytown, lay out the property that's in question, where we have, again, land that either a property owner is requesting to develop or it's an open tract of land. So I'm going to talk about 3 of those pieces. So the Jan Anderson property is one that's been discussed. That is a property owner requested piece of land. It is under active started conversation and will likely be orderly annexed to Bayport at their direction. Second, the property that we live on has been unquestioned. We have it plotted for 2.5 acres. There is no intent to do a mass development. We have been attempted to be annexed, and we have fought that every single time. The third piece is the DNR land across from the maximum security prison. That is one we do need to actively manage. So could it happen? Of course, there's probability. The risk is low. Taxes to go up are high.
Thank you. The question now goes to Paul Johnson.
Currently, I don't believe Oak Park Heights is a threat because of our borders. As Nicole mentioned, there's very few accessible lands that a property owner could transfer or ask for orderly annexation. So currently, I do not believe that.
Thank you. The question goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, I think, like kind of Nicole said, this is a commonly asked question, and Oak Park is losing a lot of their tax revenue. But the main thing is right now, with this Spring Hills community, that's a border, and we have around Oak Park is kind of cut up too. But like Nicole's property and the DNR, there's a subdivided into, plotted for 2-acre chunks, which pretty much stops Oak Park. But the DNR, I think we got to actively manage that one. Again, at the end of the day, township or city, we can't tell the DNR who to sell to and who not to sell to. So it doesn't help us being a city.
Thank you. Question now goes to George Dierberger.
Very complicated question. I think 33% of your revenue, you've got full-time employees, you've got a police force, you pay for the bulk of the fire department. We pay about 10% of the fire department's budget as part of Baytown. I think what they would do, and I think you can't be naive about this, guys. I lose 30% of my revenue, I lay off a bunch of people, or I try to make a run at Baytown. What they'll do is they'll go after water and sewage is the excuse that they will use to annex. And that happened in Princeton versus Baldwin. If you Google that, all of you, I encourage you all to Google that. That was settled July 14th of this year, and Baldwin lost that land to Princeton. So I think you've got to be really clear-eyed, and people do things when they get money is always going to dictate a lot of things, and people will do things not necessarily in the best interest of Baytown. We would be somewhat defenseless, I think.
Thank you. Question now goes to Jon Wood.
Initially, I wasn't in favor of moving to a city. I didn't want it. I wanted to stay a township until I saw the Princeton versus Baldwin case. And I saw how Princeton came in, bullied Baldwin, tried to take their land, and they were instantly in litigation. And they've been in litigation. They were in litigation for better part of a year against Princeton. And that's what it comes down to. Is it comes down to this question: is you have a city like Oak Park Heights that's going to lose 33% of the revenue. What are their options? And annexing Baytown is one of the biggest options. The only way to defend ourselves against that is to become a city. I don't like the option, but it's our only option that we have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments?
Liz, I'd like to make one. When we look at the Baldwin-Princeton situation, it's, again, important to understand and look at the facts. Baldwin had requested to become a city prior to the actions that are being discussed. It was because they had large tracts of land on their borders, which makes them susceptible to annexation. When Princeton opposed that, the deal they came up with was to annex a portion of Baldwin to Princeton. That's what happened. It wasn't this Princeton coming in and stealing land. This is why understanding the facts is critical and understanding the implication to our taxes.
Rebuttal, please.
Yes, George.
Go look at Channel 9, Google it, and look at what they have to say about that. And I think this is my third rebuttal. The issue is that the land that they took was primarily about a third of Baldwin, and primarily was more commercial real estate with businesses that they could absorb, just to be really candid about that, Nicole. And so that was of great value to them. And they also played the water card as well, and also the sewage card.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to move on to a question about water then. And it goes first to Jon Wood. What is the town board's role in ensuring safe drinking water for its residents?
Well, certainly just keeping clean water ordinances, buffers around the lakes, fertilization, different issues like that. But in terms of the water, again, back to the city versus the township issue, is these cities like Lake Elmo have a huge water issue right now. Lake Elmo, almost could not build their school in the south end because they don't have water and sewer. And though a city like Lake Elmo can easily come in and try to take land because they have the west side of Baytown, take land just to expand their water and sewage areas.
The question now goes to George Dierberger.
Yeah, I think water's a huge issue, and we haven't introduced the Met Council into this discussion yet, but Met Council controls quite a bit of the water and sewage situation. To John's point, Lake Elmo had to get a special permission from the Met Council to draw down the aquifer that supplies White Bear Lake. And then also sewage. You got sewage issues too with our friends down in Bayport kind of almost maxing out. Not sure about Oak Park Heights. But I will say this, I think at the end of the day, that's what they play, that's what the card they play when they try to annex you, is they talk about water quality, impacting their water quality, impacting their sewage. I think for us with our wells, one of the forever chemicals is a big thing for all of us guys. And if you haven't tested your well, you should test your well, because we're finding it now in Baytown. So it's a nasty, nasty thing, and Nicole and I are not very proud of 3M with forever chemicals.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nicole.
Thank you. I would say three things. Number one is education. So in talking with community members, I've had community members asking, do we have water quality issues? What should we be doing about it? So general education about the TPE plume that impacts the southeast portion of our community, and making sure they understand what that means, how they can protect themselves and their family. That's number one. The second point is making sure our community understands how they can go about testing, whether that's their own testing or how to get testing through the state. And then the third piece is making sure that we're communicating with the community about where we have seen instances, as George has mentioned, where we have seen some contaminated water sources, to make sure our residents understand what is around us and how they can protect themselves and their family.
Thank you. The question now goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, I think, water's a huge thing, and I agree with pretty much everyone up here that we need to protect our water, and they will come, right now Baytown Township has, we don't have a lot of traces of those forever chemicals. Lake Elmo's water is contaminated, West Lakeland's is, Oak Park's finding some in theirs, Bayport's finding some in theirs. I think, education, everyone, try and get everyone tested. The state comes out, they come out to my house, and test it. And then if we start having a water issue, then we can look at options on, there are filtration systems to help out, and some of these companies are helping pay for these filtration systems.
Thank you. The question now goes to Paul Johnson.
Water quality is important to everybody. We need to communicate. We need to get something on our website, maps, involve the state, have links to all of the concerns that the state has, and just make sure everybody's aware. Get it out there. We have that job to do.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, which goes to Paul Johnson first. Do you have any concerns about housing density requirements in the township?
The council and councils prior to have done a good job to maintain our 2.5 acre minimum. It was 5 acre prior, to maintain that rural lifestyle that we can enjoy today. I think we need to maintain that. The cluster homes are maybe an exception to that, but they do still have open space around them. So to maintain what we have now is to guard it carefully.
Thank you. The question now goes to George Dierberger.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. Do you have any concerns about housing density requirements in the township?
No, I think the previous boards have done a great job with maintaining the 2.5 acre lot minimum, and I think that's what makes our place special. And it also helps drive up home values. Not that we're Edina, but it does. There's a wonderful impact to our home values because of that. You know, and I just want to bring up one thing. When you look at your township taxes are about 17% of your total tax bill. That's it. And when we've had the increases this past year, we all took a bath on our taxes this year, going up 30%. It was like, holy cow, what are you guys thinking? Why didn't you adjust the mill rate? And they didn't do that. And so all of us, and especially people on fixed incomes, were dramatically impacted by the increased value of our homes, which there's no one out there that's getting a 30% pay increase, guys. I mean, that was egregious, and I thought the county did a very poor job of implementing that.
Thank you. Question now goes to Jon Wood.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Do you have any concerns about housing density requirements in the township?
I mean, housing density, the 2.5 acre minimum is critical. I mean, it's critical to retaining the rural character of Baytown. On the edges, the big builders are going to be looking to move to annex to the other cities because they have lower requirements on the size of the properties. You know, they can do a 1/2 acre property. In terms of the Met Council, I mean, the Met Council and the Lake Elmo decision in the early 2000s, it changed Lake Elmo forever. And we're always going to be, whether we're a township or a city, going to be living under the hammer of what the Met Council could do as our areas grow and we get immigration into the towns and they're looking for places to put people. There's going to be pressures, and we have to be prepared for those pressures and to defend the rural character of Baytown.
Thank you. Question now goes to Nicole Dahl.
Thank you. I would uphold the 2.5 acre minimum for Baytown if elected. I think the board has done a great job upholding that to date. I'd also applaud the board for the community development on our western borders, because that does defend our borders from annexation. I think that was a very smart strategic move. And as George pointed out, we do have a request coming forward for development of land within the center of Baytown for development, but will uphold the 2.5 acre minimum. So I think that's fantastic. And that needs to be continuing, because that is really what our community is asking for this rural development. We want to maintain this open space. We love seeing the wildlife. We really enjoy the property that's around us, and absolutely want to continue that into the future.
Thank you. Question now goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, I think, like everyone has said, the board has done a great job of trying to keep our 2.5 acre minimum lot size, and I would be all for keeping it the same. I think the board has also done a great job in protecting our border against Bayport, and now with the new development on the north, protecting against Oak Park Heights in the future. These little cluster homes on our borders are there for a reason. You know, they are a fence because it is too expensive for these cities to try and bring sewage and water in to a 2 acre development, you know, that are, you know, it's too expensive to get to house. So I think the board has done a great job, and I would be all in favor in trying to keep our minimum 2.5.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments?
I
Yes.
do. You know, my rebuttal is about the attacks. The attacks from, you know, Chris just mentioned the attacks from Bayport, the attacks from Oak Park Heights. You know, we're constantly under attack. The whole point of moving to a city is to end those attacks, to give us some kind of protection. Otherwise, we're going to be constantly under attack for the future. If you want to protect Baytown, if you want to save Baytown, as the signs in Nicole's yard say, it comes down to we have to move to a city. It's the only way to protect us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Christopher.
Yeah, to the attacks. So the board, like I said, has done a great job of doing these cluster homes. it is so expensive for the cities to try and annex those cluster homes because they're so spread out that they'll stay away from that. The farmland that on our border, they will go after, like we're seeing down at Jane Anderson's property. But again, that's property owner driven. That's not Bayport saying, hey, we're going to take you. It's property owner driven. So no matter what, city, township, that land's going to go bye-bye.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll move on to the next question. It goes to you first, Christopher. How do you plan to engage with and represent all members of Baytown Township's community, including those who have not traditionally been involved in the work and life of the city?
Yeah, I think Baytown, like I said, I grew up here. I think they've always done a good job about, trying to get engagement. I do think, like George said earlier, that we need to kind of move with the times, and we need to have, accept credit card payments, accept easier permitting. Our website needs to be updated. The newer generation is slowly moving into Baytown, so we need to kind of, get with the times and have a little bit more efficiency. And with a better website and more easier for the community, they'll go check it more often as well.
Thank you. Question goes to Jon Wood.
Yeah, our efforts over the last year, and a lot of this has been pushed by George to get the word out about the annexation issue. And he has done a marvelous job of engaging the public. He's been getting people to the Baytown, other than to vote, he's getting people to come out and talk about these issues and getting community engagement, educating the community. They've been putting all this information on the website. Even though our website is not the greatest website, the information's out there. So as a resident, you can go out there, and also people like George have opened themselves up to communication on these issues. You can call George at any time and ask him about this very important issue to our town. And so I think we just continue that and expand on the website, and continue to work with the local residents to get the information out there.
Thank you. Question goes to Paul Johnson.
I think I would go out in the neighborhoods and reach out, go door to door, and ask 5 minutes of their time to ask what they see as a priority in their township. Communicate. Talk to people.
Thank you. Question goes to George Dierberger.
Yeah, I think you got to get out there and talk to people. I jog every morning, so I always run into people when I'm out jogging. Neighborhood get-togethers is always a good thing. I met recently with a group of people that were concerned about the exit coming out of Spring Hill on 47th Street and the traffic that's going to increase pretty substantially because of that. So I think you have to make yourself available. I think what Nicole has done has been great in terms of getting people more involved and having people over to the Township Hall. I think that's great. The night out event that we had in August was good. Anything we can do, when you have 2.5 acre lots, it makes it more difficult to knock on doors. So it's not as efficient to do that. So you have to look at special events and neighborhood get-togethers in order to have that dialogue. And email and text and cell phones, it's so easy to get a hold of people today. So.
Thank you. Question now goes to Nicole Dahl.
Sure. I think there are multiple methods that we can use to communicate with our community. Certainly the board meetings that happen once a month is one mechanism to engage with the community and hear feedback. One thing that we have been, as talking with the community that has been asked is, would the board be willing to do more open forums? So maybe also once a month where it's just an open conversation. I think that's a great avenue. Certainly the website and making sure we have updated information on that. One point I do want to clarify is actually the document we put together is not on the website, but George, if the board is offering to publish that would be fantastic.
Sure.
We'll get that done. But I would also say thinking about other mechanisms for engagement, like social media, as CJ pointed, we're slowly getting community members that are maybe more engaging on things like Facebook, Instagram. That may be another mechanism in addition to traditional things like email.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question, which will be our last question. It goes first to George. What would be your approach to working with other town supervisors who may not share your outlook or on controversial or complicated issues?
You know, at the end of the day, we all have to get along, and we all have to work together, even if you disagree. If we lose the election and we become a township, God bless them, you know? I think that's part of the process. That's the beauty of democracy. And people have the opportunity to vote if you want to stay a township. And I think back to your earlier question, you know, if it's a 51-49 margin, I think then it's a really deep discussion on the board whether you become a city or not. If it's 55 or 60, 60 is really a mandate as far as I'm concerned. So I think you have to work together. You have to put the township first or the city first and not what you want. And so once this gets settled, you still have to run the business and you still have to run the township or the city. And that means you've got to do the basic fundamentals, the ABCs of taking care of the roads, making sure that you're responding to the community and doing your job. That's why you get $75 a meeting. You know, that's the big bucks. You get all the big bucks for that. So.
Thank you. Question goes to Nicole Dahl.
Thank you. So every day in my professional career, I work with people of differing opinions. It's part of what drives us to be better. And I think one of the first important things is seek to understand. You have to listen. You need to engage in communication. George, we've had multiple communications, whether it's email, we've had coffee together. Yeah. George is great. He's got clear thinking for what he thinks is best for our community. And as he said, this is a great part of democracy. We get lively, healthy debate, and my goal is to bring factual information to the community and make sure people are armed with data so they can make their own decision. However, at the end of the day, I will say in my professional career, once we make a decision, if I'm in the minority, then we play team. And as George said, we need to get things done. And we will operate as a team moving forward. So it's a great opportunity. I hope everybody gets out and votes on November 5th.
Thank you. Question goes to Paul Johnson.
I as well had to work with many people that I have differing opinions with. And at the end of the day, as George says, the job needs to get done. And with the interest of the people, the citizens, residents, it's in their best interest that everything moves along slowly and cooperatively. So that's what we do.
Thank you. Question now goes to Jon Wood.
The annexation issue is highly contentious, but in general, everyone agrees on keeping Baytown rural, keeping Baytown low taxes. And we've heard that tonight, or this morning here in the debate. We're all in agreement. The only issue that separates us right now, for the most part, is annexation and the city versus the township. And again, I was on the other side. I was on the township side, and the information has changed my mind. It's something that we have to do in order to protect us. And as the education comes out there over the next, if it's not in this election, the next couple of years, the education may change some more minds as to new threats for Baytown and also new opportunities to protect us.
Thank you. The question now goes to Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, I think it comes down, the world as we live is pretty divided, I would say, but I think Baytown Township is one of these, kind of hidden gems. No matter what, we all want the same stuff. We want to protect our lifestyles and the way we live. And, the question is township or city better? I believe that the township is better, but George believes the city's better, Either way we go, we have to work together, and like everyone's kind of saying, let the community decide, and when the community decides if they choose city, I'll work with that, their decision.
Thank you. We'll now move to closing statements, and each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll go in the reverse order that we did opening statements, and we'll begin with seat 5, candidate Paul Johnson.
Thank you again for this opportunity for the League of Women Voters to be able to get us on stage and deliver our message. I think we are in a special time. There's a lot of pressures. We've seen Lake Elmo developed into a completely different world than we're used to. I certainly could say that. It's far different than I recall. And we don't want that to happen. It probably will in maybe my lifetime, but I'm going to fight as hard as I can to maintain what we have today. And low taxes, that's what keeps us here. Otherwise, it may look like a different place. So thank you, and best luck to my fellow candidates.
Thank you. Now with his closing statement is Christopher Randazzo.
Yeah, I first want to say thank you for hosting this event. I want to be very clear, I am pro-township. At the end of the day, you know, we want to keep Baytown the same. We don't want to change. You know, like Paul said, you know, maybe 50, 60 years, maybe we have another discussion. But right now, our board has done a very good job of building, you know, a communal fence around our properties or around Baytown. And we really have, you know, one property, two properties that are somewhat threatened. But again, they're property owner driven, and that doesn't stop whether we're a city or a township. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now with his closing statement, George Dierberger.
Well, first of all, thank you again, Liz, and the league for hosting this. Thanks to the other candidates for a good debate today. I think it's really comes down to whether you believe in a city versus township and what's going to preserve your taxes the best and maintain our way of life, as John said. For me, I believe that is to become a city, because I think you control more of your future and take out a number of variables if you are a city versus a township. But whatever it is, at the end of the day, after that Tuesday election, the next day we have to get back to running the business. And that means taking care of the township, paying the bills, doing the infrastructure things that we need to do to maintain our roads and maintain our way of life. We're really blessed in so many ways as to where we live. I think we're so lucky as to where we live, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Thank you.
Thank you. George and Christopher are the candidates for seat 2. Now we'll hear closing statements from the candidates for seat 1, and we'll start with Jon Wood.
It all comes down to protecting what we have in Baytown, protecting our town that we have, and if it becomes a city, it becomes a city for one reason, and that is there are statutes in the state of Minnesota that protect cities that do not protect townships. And so converting to a city allows us for protections legally. And so we'll have an arsenal against the encroaching cities around us that are opportunistic, and they're also they're struggling, and so they're looking for any kind of opportunities for revenue. So we have to protect Baytown. The only way we can do it, that I believe, and George believes, is to become a city. It's not something that we're excited about, but it's a protection. It's a statute in the state of Minnesota, and so we need to protect Baytown.
Thank you. Now with your closing statement is Nicole Dahl.
Thank you. I would make a few points. One, to ask the residents to really go back to understanding the data and where the inherent risk is. We are not constantly under attack. There is one property owner that is requesting annexation. That is their right. And that has been discussed for many, many years. We've known about that. It is not a surprise. The other ones are areas to be managed. The risk is low. It's a low probability. It is not an inherent threat. When you look at moving to a city structure, the probability and likelihood of taxes increasing are high. One of the key concerns of our residents is to maintain a low tax base. So if you want to maintain a low tax base, we would encourage you to vote for township, vote no. Third, I would be deeply honored to represent Baytown on the board. I am fully committed to giving it everything I have and learning along the way. And finally, I would just thank, again, the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to disseminate information to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our forum for the candidates for Baytown Township Board of Supervisors. Our website, lwv-baytown.com, let me start over again. Our website, lwv-wbla.org, has listings for all of our candidate forums and links where you can submit questions for those forums. You can view the recording of this forum and all of our forums on our YouTube channel, League of Women Voters, White Bear Lake area. You can also look for it on your local cable channel at times of their choosing. Thank you, and remember to vote. Early voting is November 20th to November 4th. You can do that right now at the City Hall.
I think
Or
October.
at the county office.
September.
Sorry.
Yeah.
County office. And Election Day is November 5th.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Great. Nice job, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you,
Nice job.
George. Thanks for your service.